This last month, Joe Biden brought the topic Proud Boys into the media, or should I call them the Poor Boys, as he couldn't seem to remember the group's name in the most recent debate. The group, which describes itself as a right-wing Western chauvinist organization, was accused of being a white supremacist group by Biden. Now, while we obviously have no love for white supremacists here, I do question the veracity of these allegations when the organization's leader is in fact a person of color. Either way, the story took the news by storm, and Biden supporters on Twitter decided to create a play on words and swarmed the trending hashtag Proud Boys with pictures of gay men kissing. So the term would no longer be synonymous with the organization, but instead become an LGBT slogan. Now, people can argue on Twitter all day about the Proud Boys. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. But what I didn't expect to see was my very own homeland's military jumping into the conversation, with the official Canadian Armed Forces account tweeting out hashtag Proud Boys with a picture of two men in uniform kissing. Then below, they continued, if you wear a uniform, know what it means. If you're thinking about wearing our uniform, know what it means. Love is love. It seems we've gone from one problem, don't ask, don't tell, to another, must ask, must tell. So essentially, if you want to be part of the Canadian military, you have to be pro-gay marriage. I do wonder if the CAF have any internal conflicts about what they're to do about their Muslim or Christian members when they're supposed to support freedom of religion as well. I have nothing against the LGBT community. You do you. But there is a reason we do not allow our militaries to get political. We have apolitical militaries to ensure our fighting force does not become a populist movement. Being politically aligned adversely impacts recruiting, and more importantly, the military is supposed to fight and stand for all citizens, not just those of certain politics. Armies that fight for partisan causes within their own borders are the types of militaries pulling coups in developing nations. It's not just Canada either. Most Western militaries have begun this process of enacting modern progressive policies. The British Navy and RAF personnel now march in London's Pride Parade in uniform and have brought in large diversification pushes. You even have a U.S. Navy captain that has started a book club for Second Fleet sailors, naming Robin DiAngelo's radical left-wing book, White Fragility, as their first read. Australia is certainly not free from this nonsense either. Ex-Army Chief David Morrison launched a campaign for the Diversity Council of Australia, condemning offensive words in the military, most shockingly of all, wanting to remove the word guys from the workplace, along with other masculine terms. Seriously, imagine soldiers in World War II storming the beaches of Normandy while their leader screams, "Let's go, guys," and one man stopping and piping up saying, excuse me, could we please use gender-inclusive language here? It's madness. The Australian Army began implementing active diversification quotas back in 2012, with priorities being women, Indigenous, LGBTI persons, people with disabilities, mature age, and a few other categories. The issue here obviously isn't these groups. Every single one should be able to join the military. It's the act of putting diversity in front of merit. If it's our families and our nations on the line, I want the best of the best on the front lines. And perhaps some may argue there are intangible benefits from forcing different perspectives. And while that may be true in other workplaces, in the military, there is only one perspective that counts. We win, they lose. To try another angle, the military did attempt with the UK and US armed forces to bring in all-female engagement teams to relate with the female population in Afghanistan. And unfortunately, they were found to be a massive failure. They were easily manipulated by the locals and proved to be largely ineffective in their intended counterinsurgency role, found a study carried out by a female advisor to UK commanders in Afghanistan. This isn't because there aren't incredible women that can't do military jobs. It's just throwing diversity at a problem is rarely the answer. This goes beyond questions of merit, though. What's scariest about a push for a progressive military is the position it is going to put the West in the coming years. This year, Scott Morrison has warned with the rise of China that Australia faces challenges not seen since World War II. saying specifically, we now live in a poorer, more dangerous, and more disorderly world. And he's right. This isn't a partisan issue. Even Kevin Rudd has predicted conflict with China in the coming years. And that very real potential situation is getting closer every day. What are the West's priorities going to be? Will we be having internal squabbling about how you can't join your military if you're not pro-gay marriage? Will Western forces collectively be fussing about how our infantry corps is not female enough? Will we be pushing back the best of the best pilots and support teams to meet diversity mandates? I can assure you, these are not the problems China is going to be dealing with. They'll be laughing all the way to the battlefield as we are stuck arguing about whether our soldiers' symbology and emblems are too scary. Oh, I didn't mention that? Yeah, the Australian Defence Force has banned soldiers from wearing military symbols which are too offensive or represent death. I'm not sure what people think the Army are out here training to do, but if you don't think it has anything to do with death or scariness, I've got some bad news for you. The military are not social workers. They are trained to enact force and kill when necessary. Their job is not to make people feel cozy and represented. Hopefully, no one wants to see people like them represented in war, because war is hell. Their job is to make sure that hell doesn't last long by achieving victory as efficiently as possible. And I don't care if you're gay, straight, blue, green. I wouldn't care if our entire military were gay if they were the best at the job and our government could explain why. Otherwise, they should remember the age-old adage that politics is a substitute for violence. But when violence is called for, we should accept no inferior substitutes. As the world gets more unstable, more than ever, we need the military to go back to being the military.